We have now successfully submitted the manuscript. I don't know whether to say fingers crossed. I'm fingers crossing that this does not get accepted. I let AI draft a research paper and submitted it to a peer-reviewed journal. In this video, I'm going to show you how and what happened. So stick with me. Now, as a professor, I've published over 400 peer-reviewed papers, so I know a few things about publication. And like many other professors, I've been skeptical and a bit on the fence about what AI tools can do. Because up until now, it would commonly hallucinate. It would make up references for made-up claims, which is a bit of a problem for academic research. It also exhibited generally poor writing, right? In the sense that writing could be easily detectable and flagged as AI, just a certain style. When a student or researcher would send me something, immediately had a smell of ChatGPT done it. It would also tend to be too short, heavily rely on bullet points, not really fleshing out its points, almost as though it got lazy along the way and wanted you to do the work for it. And if I would mark the literature reviews coming from AI, it wouldn't even pass muster for an undergraduate literature review. Today and now forward, that has all changed. I just took a sneak peek at Deep Research's AI model put out by ChatGPT. Is it that AGI moment where the bots are going to take over the world? Not yet, but close. Now I would grade this, and I'll show it to you in a second, as producing papers that are not just an A level and beyond what I would expect from a first-year PhD student. They're producing them at an expert level that I might even expect from an experienced postdoc or an assistant professor. It kind of gives me goosebumps. I'm impressed by what it's able to achieve. It's so good that I wouldn't have even contemplated this experiment before, because the manuscript would have just gotten blown out of the water and been easily detectable. So let me show you what I mean here in a second. I'm going to go over to a live example and show you what this deep research looks like before with the just regular version of ChatGPT 4.0 and the deep research that just came out. And I think you're going to agree that we are in a new world. So let me set out ground rules for this experiment of submitting to the journal. First rule is I'm going to make minimal changes. I am going to leave the AI voice intact. So I'm not going to draw on any of our templates for research or the shortcuts, things that we've tried and battle tested over years, publishing tons of papers and helping lots of researchers do so that you find in our academic programs like the Research Collective. Check out those links in the description if you're interested. So minimal changes, and just going to let deep research do the work. Where I'm submitting? Well, if you go to journals that are Elsevier, they have a very clear AI policy, like the one I'm sharing with you on the screen, that AI can assist you in the writing. It needs to be declared. It doesn't count as an author, but it should not be doing the original creative thinking, interpreting the data, or generating those novel insights. So editorial role, great. The real innovation and creativity, not okay. So that's going to rule out submitting to Elsevier journals because I'm going to run afoul of their ethical policies. So I'm going to have to submit to a semi-predatory journal that's kind of right on the borderline and doesn't have, at least at the time here of making this video, a clear AI guideline. And so I'm not going to reveal the journal that I'm going to submit to because that would ruin the blinding effect of the study and kind of randomized trials. The kind of person involved in the trial needs to be blind to getting the intervention for it to work, because their knowledge of the intervention could skew how they respond and undermine the whole intent of the study and the results that we're trying to achieve and see. So we need that blinding effect. So I'm going to go with one of the journals that, to give you a hint, comes from a LinkedIn feed of a colleague who said recently, "Friends don't let friends submit to MDPI." I guess I don't have good friends, because that's the hint of the direction that we're going to go. Also, continuing the rules, the cover letter and the reviewers are going to be picked by the AI. Yes, that's right. The AI can actually come out now with real people's names, real people's contacts, real emails, and make suggestions. We're going to go with that. All right, let me lift the hood so you can see the insides of how I went about this process. So first, to put this in perspective, I did a first search saying, hey, please conduct a literature review on health effects of social capital, use academic references, draw on PubMed, identify potential gaps in the literature for future research, as well as current methodological weaknesses of existing studies. And as you can see, this is the kind of original version that I'd be expecting and was very disappointed with from ChatGPT. You can see it's improved a bit. It starts to get some studies that are pointing to real studies, but that literature review was 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs long. So if you submitted this for an assignment, you submitted it to a journal, it's just going to get blown out of the water, not going to work, not recommended. Now enter deep research. And honestly, I was blown away. So same prompt, but now deep research comes back and recognizes the need to clarify. So as you can see here, to conduct a comprehensive review, you need to specify the time range. Can you specify the particular outcomes you're looking at? Should I focus on a particular group? Those of you familiar with my training know that when I advocate doing literature reviews, I really push researchers and other students to clarify their topic using a PICO model. Define the population, define the intervention, define the outcomes, define the time period. And ChatGPT is forcing you to follow some good research practices here in doing that. So yes, I appreciated that. And I did add a little bit of clarification below, and then ChatGPT using deep research fired away. Now, I'm not showing this live because this took a long time for it to do. And what's pretty cool is how it would show you its thought process as it went along, as though you were in some kind of voyeuristic way, looking over the shoulder of a research assistant busily bustling away at work. So this is what I came up with. This is not the final version that I went with, but I'll give a caveat on that in a minute. So as you can see, compare this to the predecessor. I'm going to come back up. Compare this to our 4-paragraph. It's like you made a sandwich that had like 1 slice of cheese in it. Here we've got, a Subway sandwich that's packed to the brim, like with probably too much stuff in it by comparison. And so this, I rapidly realized was just a game changer. And what's pretty cool, if you click on these links, I'll show you an example here. It takes you to the study and it takes you to the place inside the study that it often will highlight and show you where it's at. So here's one example of this study. I'm going to come back and show you a few more examples of this, but it's a real study. No more hallucinating references. In fact, I checked every single one of the references and none of them were made up studies. Let's keep going. So this was a great version because look, it broke down the relationship, came up with structured headings and themes. I picked this topic intentionally because it's something that I know a bit about from my past research as a health economist and social epidemiologist. It also caught this emerging strand of the dark side of social capital that's really much more recent, saying that, it's not universally good. There can be some bad effects to social capital, social cohesion. So, it just passes the smell test that this was really, really strong. And it caught these mechanisms, explaining, really characterizing, breaking down the relationship between social capital health in a mature way that I would expect an experienced researcher to do. So again, overall, really, really impressed, because this would take a normal researcher at the PhD level. This is, I would estimate, a month, possibly 2 months of work to read through the studies and get this kind of gist, this mature understanding of the theory, the empirical evidence, and string it together in a conceptual framework with mechanisms like this. Okay, so immediately when I saw this, alarm bells went off and said, let's do the experiment and see if this can pass muster. But there are a few things. Just to follow with the ground rules of our experiment, I need to come back and add in the cover letter and selection of the reviewers. Also, this is not really in the format of a literature review. This was my first look. So then I went back and I asked ChatGPT to fix the references, put things in the right format following introduction, methods, results, conclusions for a literature review, and we'd whip it up. So I'm not going to take you through the gist of it. I asked multiple times. I said, hey, ChatGPT, I need you to number citations in the text and create references. It started, but then it just got lazy, wanted to take a nap. It said, oh, well, additional sections will follow the same citation structure. You go do the work. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try it again, do it for the whole manuscript. It still didn't want to do it. So I went back and had deep research do it. And this time it asked me a few other clarifying questions. So it was going to start the process all over. Target journal, reviewer suggestions, submission guidelines, added that in, gave some suggestions of where we might go. Note that this is not the actual journal where we went to. And as you can see, it took 12 minutes, came across 35 sources to complete this, and it still didn't put the references in the right place, and it still didn't have the method box in the right section. So I discarded this version of the review, and however, it did do a pretty cool suggestion of reviewers and justify why in the cover letter. I'm going to come back to that in a second. So you can see this one went a little bit faster, went on 43 sources, and this is ultimately the version that I went with for the paper. But unfortunately, I still could not get the references to be included in the text. As I was saying before, if you check out this reference, what it's doing that I find particularly cool is it comes here and it's actually highlighting the specific section in the manuscript where it found that piece of evidence. Saves a huge amount of time if you, instead of now having what you had to do before is wade through the manuscript to see if it was making up stuff. Now it gives you its evidence right there before your eyes. Very cool. But unfortunately, try as hard as I could not get these references to be cited in. So I said I was going to take minimal touches, and that's what I did. So I went with the references like this. I went in EndNote, as you can see in the following sequence here, tidied up the references, and got the beautiful manuscript that you now see before you. The next step was to piece together the cover letter, which, once again, ChatGPT was able to do. This is a pretty decent cover letter, a little long-winded, but again, I'm going to resist the urge to touch up things in this manuscript. So we left it as it is, despite knowing several of the problems. We made a series of good suggestions for reviewers, including the reviewers cited in the manuscript. So I really appreciated that. And this did follow the principle of try to make it easy for the editors to find reviewers. It's getting increasingly hard to do so. It is very, very frustrating for editors doing volunteer work as it is to have to chase and chase and chase to try to get somebody to agree. So this was very well done, justified why the reviewers were chosen. So we're going to go with this verbatim. And again, I just took a final look at the manuscript. And again, there are things that really pain me to see some of the errors and mistakes in this manuscript, especially around the methods, infelicities of expression, certain lacks of precision, but I'm gonna leave it. So intentionally, that if I start changing this, it won't stay true to the experiment. So the next step now, we have all the ingredients to submit. We're gonna head on over to the journal website, get this uploaded, locked, and loaded, ready to go. Okay, so while submitting, we have come across this important point. They do ask for use of generative AI in writing. We do need to stay ethical and transparent, so we will say yes and follow their guidelines. It is important for, even in this experiment, to not lie or implement falsehoods. So here we go. It is a requirement when submitting to declare if we have used this and list the softwares and tools used, how it's used, and for what reason. So here we are. ChatGPT Model 4.0 and Deep Research were used in the search for included studies and writing the manuscript. Excellent. Published materials. Have you published this? We have not. And the rest logically follows. All right, so now here are the important parts. I've read, we understand the editorial policies and ethics requirements. And all right, moment of truth. Confirm submission. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little bit nervous. Like, is this going to be blown out of the water? Will this go to peer review? I have no idea how this is going to be handled, but I'm excited to find out. So yeah, let's do this. And that's it. So we are now submitted. And typically when I submit, I cross my fingers in excitement and hopes that it gets accepted. This is the first time I have ever submitted a paper that I hope gets desk rejected. I hope the peer review system is robust and will blow this right out of the water. Because if you run this through any plagiarism detector, all the alarm bells are going to go off. Ding, 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 ding. This is going to clearly show up and manifest as nearly 100% AI generated. But honestly, I'm not really sure which way this is going to go, especially having submitted to a semi-predatory, or what's been called a semi-predatory journal that is often accused of just trying to rake in money on article processing charges. What do you guys think? Let me know in the links below. I can see this going either way, but I'm really hoping otherwise. Second thing I'm going to do in the background, so we can get even more data about how peer review will take on this new generation of AI, is I'm going to submit to a friendly, sympathetic journal, and I'm going to break the blinding to that journal and let him know what we're trying to do. We're going to explain that it's an AI assisted and largely generated manuscript, and hope that he'll take part in the experiment, understanding what we're trying to do, and see if we can get some real reviewer feedback. And as soon as I get that data, of course, you're going to be the first to know. And more generally, listen, I hope I've shown you that if you use AI in in the wrong way, it can lead to all sorts of unethical quagmires. And I see many students and researchers, even professors, starting to experiment with AI, but not really being sure how to use it in the right way, and even running the risk of feeling like a fraud. That is, they might get some short-term gain, but only for long-term pain as they develop an unhealthy dependence on AI. What you need is to master the research fundamentals, and then bolt AI in an appropriate way on top of that. And do look into joining our research community, the Research Collective. If you're a researcher in a developing country, we are aiming to break down the barriers to access to elite level training. This is perfect for you. And if you are more generally interested in us working together in a more intimate capacity, check out the links below. Get our free workshop on how researchers are publishing in as little as 90 days. And by the way, they're not using AI at all to do so, although we do show them the right way if they want to. And guys, I can't wait to see what's going to happen here. You will be the first to know, and stay tuned for the next installment of our great AI experiment.